The Honourable Leader of Opposition.
Mr. Chairman, sir, we've just heard a detailed statement from the Honourable Prime Minister, which not only disappoints us, but does not really add to our information or knowledge. A list and resume of events is given, which in the course of yesterday and the day before, newspapers and television channels have repeatedly told us. The Prime Minister, in his statement, besides giving us a detail of the events which has taken place, has posed a question before this Parliament. I don't think there is a serious difficulty in answering that question. But the question that he has posed as to who drafts the laws and who makes the laws in this country, I don't think there is a serious debate or anybody inside or outside this House is seriously disputing that. After reading his statement, I am left wondering as to who really runs this country and who rules this country. You have a serious political issue which is being debated for the last few months, which climaxed in the last few days, and now we find that the political leadership of this country is really hiding behind the men in uniform and tell India's parliament and India's people that this entire crisis was being handled by some policemen, and all the political issues which arise and the solutions which are being sought, the solution to them was that the police decided to invoke provisions of section 151 and 107 of the CRPC, and thereafter the law started taking its own course. Sir, I think it is time for the Prime Minister of India and the political leadership of the government to really stand up and take bold decisions. He must go to the root of this issue as to why such a loss of confidence in his government has taken place. Sir, on Independence Day, the most defining moment was not the Prime Minister of India unfurling the national flag at the Red Fort, but in the evening when the news spread that Shri Anna Hazare had gone and sat at the Rajghat, thousands of people, not brought into by buses, voluntarily started arriving there in order to show a solidarity of support. The defining moment was yesterday, something which even political parties may find difficult to organize, that the news of his arrest spreads, and you find not at hundreds but thousands of places all over the country, every city, even in rural areas, protest starts. Why is this that this has not happened in the past? So some of us who've participated in these movements when they have earlier taken place, I was a part of the movement led by Shri Jayaprakash Narayan, and some of these images which we saw in the last 2 days go even far beyond what we had even visualized in our lives. The truth is that India today is exasperated with corruption. India today is exasperated with this political leadership of the government, which is unable to tackle corruption and which has absolutely no solutions except cover-ups to order. So you had some of the most monumental scams in history which have taken place in the last few years. All we got was the routine phrases and the routine templates that this government will have a zero tolerance level to corruption. This government will now allow investigative agencies a free hand. But repeatedly, when the 2G scam took place, we were repeatedly told that there's nothing of a scam in it. I'm not getting into the details of those issues. But you've had situation where, whether it's telecom or it's national highways or it's the Commonwealth Games, you pick up any infrastructural decision, and that's a sector which has taken a setback, you find decisions being taken for collateral purposes. And the best defense this government had to offer for 3 years was, One, they lived in denial that there is no such scam which has taken place. And finally, whatever action this government did take was not a voluntary action. You were coerced by courts. You were compelled by the courts and by the force of public opinion and the opposition in parliament to start taking action against those who were responsible of all these scams. So you have in this, why should we blame the youth of this country which has come out in lakhs yesterday when you have votes of confidence taking place in parliament which are vitiated by corruption? Can we blame those people that it's not a fair cause that they are fighting for, where they are exasperated, not only with the extent of corruption, but also with the fact that the government of the day is willing to condone it? In such a situation, sir, it's a wake-up call for all of us, that unless we put our house in order, and this government leads us all in putting that house in order, the people in this country are now becoming restless. What really happened? The issue today is not, and the Prime Minister, with utmost respect to him when he says, who drafts the laws and who makes the laws? Has anybody in this country ever disputed that it is the authority ultimately of the sovereign parliament to make the laws? Nobody has disputed that.
Joint committee was formed by you.
Please.
So unless this government and its supporters address themselves to the right question, they will never get the right answer. The right question is not as to who frames the laws. There are two questions this government has to answer. The first is, does it have a political will to fight corruption? When the Prime Minister says he has no magic wand, you don't need a magic wand. You don't need magics to perform in order to fight corruption. All you need, Mr. Prime Minister, is a political will. The whole country will support a Prime Minister who says, I have the authority, I have the stature, and I have the moral stature to fight corruption. You determine that political will. You evolve that political will in yourself, and then decide to fight corruption. You will find you are in a position to fight corruption. You bring in then the necessary laws. Instead, what you have done is, you have unleashed a new political idiom against the critics of this government. On one hand, you sent ministers to receive Baba Ramdev. You formed a drafting committee with Shri Anna Hazare and his team. And then in the middle of the night, you unleashed them with lathis. You followed the police power approach to solve a political problem. What is the kind of idiom that we are seeing in the last few days? Political spokesmen are being used literally as hitmen. That's the new role they have to adopt. You pick up those crusading for probity in public life and unleash a series of political abuses on them. You start making allegations against them. Is that the level to which you have brought the level of political debate in this country? And then you stand up and cry before 5 editors with a sense of helplessness and say, these are compulsions of political alliances and coalitions that I am unable to take action. Is that the answer that you have to political corruption? Smugness, Mr. Prime Minister, which has become a character of this government, arrogance of power which has become a character of this government, is not the methodology by which corruption can be fought. Power is not immortal. The more arrogant you are, the earlier it disappears. Please bear that in mind. And therefore, when the question which is to be posed today, the first question before you, the whole country is asking, and we in the opposition today ask you, is your government having a political will to fight corruption? If you decide that the answer is in the affirmative, it's only then that you can ever get the confidence of this nation back. The second question, and that's the question which the entire opposition puts to you, the civil society is putting to you. They are not saying that they will substitute this parliament and draft the laws. But then all that they are saying and we are saying is dissent.
Please don't disrupt.
Right to protest.
Please.
All that they are saying is, and all that we are reaffirming is, they have a right to put their point of view across. Members of civil society or any citizens group or any citizen of this country has a right to campaign for his views. He has a right to crusade for his views. We are entitled to tell him how much we agree with him and how much we cannot accommodate his views. That's a part of the democratic discourse. But they have a right to put their viewpoint across, and as a part of their right to put their viewpoint across, they have a right to protest, they have a right to dissent. And it is this right to protest and this right to dissent which your government is trying to scuttle, and we are all here to oppose that.